With every new generation of Eddsworld, there's been a transfer of power from one creative to another, and with each proverbial passing of the torch, a little nod has been immortalized in the show. You just need to know what to look for. When Paul Tavoda took over from Edd to finish Space Face Part 1 in 2012, he animated a scene where a spotlight goes out above Edd's head the moment this alien walks across the screen. The alien is holding some animation cells under his arm, and he has an eyebrow similar to Paul's character as drawn by Edd. This scene represents the end of Edd's time on the show and the passing of the torch to Paul and a plethora of other creatives picking up where Edd left off. Outside of the animation, they also had to recast Edd's voice actor, of course, and they made that transition much less subtle. Matt just shoots Edd.
Hey guys, check out my new camera! Oh wait, this isn't the camera?
Matt just shoots Edd with a voice changer gun. First he starts barking like a dog, then he sounds like Eduardo, I think. Neither Brock nor Chris are listed in the end credits, but it definitely sounds like one of them.
Well, this isn't my voice. Nice roof you got there. He looks happy.
Then he sounds like an internet modem, a dolphin, a squid thing, a lion, and eventually he takes on the voice of Tim Houtekeet, the voice of Edd for the remainder of the legacy. The voice changer actually started as a joke between Tom and Paul discussing what they would do if they ever had to recast Edd. Honestly, they got kinda lucky with this episode's sci-fi setting. It gave them an opportunity to explain Edd's voice change and disguise it as a joke about Matt being an idiot. Clever stuff. The final legacy episode is called The End because it was intended to be a finale. The final shot literally closes the book on Eddsworld, and if you squint hard enough, this pan out through Edd's door could be seen as the reverse of this shot in the first episode, or it's a reverse of this shot in the other first episode. Take your pick. But the end also wasn't the finale, and the people making it kinda knew that was a possibility. During the end credits, Tom literally tells the audience that he's handing control of the show back over to Edd's family, who are still executive producers to this day. That's followed by a post-credits scene with the sinister man putting on a puppet show for these kids and a shot of John as a ghost. And in the background of the final shot of the legacy, there's a poster of a character named General McCoy. General McCoy was not an Eddsworld character, but he was designed to be a character in the high-profile Eddsworld fan movie, The Eddsworld Fan Movie. The project was massive in the community at the time this episode came out, and the fan movie animators were chosen to work on a couple of scenes for the end, including this post-credits scene. General McCoy's inclusion here, to me, is more than just some simple self-promotion. In some ways, it represents a passing of the torch from Eddsworld to the community, who kept Eddsworld spinning for the 4-year hiatus between 2016 and 2020. The fan movie itself never saw the light of day. The production of that thing was a multi-year-long plane crash where the plane never fully left the airport. I made a whole video about it, but all you need to know is that the movie and the character rights eventually landed in the hands of the current Eddsworld animator, Penny Bogart. And since General McCoy was such a popular character, she worked with a fellow artist to make a webcomic called Operation Lost Cause, which featured an alternate version of McCoy in a starring role. Fanservice 2 was the first episode of Eddsworld Beyond, and it is filled to the brim with references to Edd's work. For starters, it's billed as a sequel to fanservice. The action starts with Edd at his computer, it features a character reading out fan emails, and it ends with Matt dying and leaving a funny quote on his gravestone. All very familiar to fans of the original. It also features the return of Eddsworld Studios. There's a banner signaling that the building is under new management, and some have speculated that the sign is being painted by Edd's first animated web character, Bendy Stick. Either way, this episode is packed with references to Edd's work. It was a great way to open Beyond and a great symbolic passing of the torch. It does kind of ignore the legacy, a trend that's not uncommon with reboots nowadays, but there was plenty of that in Casting Call, the very next episode. That video features voice talent from basically every stage of Eddsworld and introduces the audience to the actors picking up the torch going forward. At this point, Tom's voice actor wasn't finalized. Ed Templar wouldn't see his debut until The Beaster Bunny, and they lampshaded that transition in a very funny joke about Tom's car. I love how the car itself is loaded with TomSka references. the Scar-style checkerboard patterns, the harpoon gun from the end, the Asdf movie-style bar bar I'm a car number plate. Even the Tomee Bear antenna could be a reference to the fact that the bear's design was based on Tom's early character design. The car burns up, Matt makes a joke about how TomSka made their trips expensive and bumpy and late, then announces that he'll be taking control and immediately falls over. A great bit of self-awareness and a very fun way of passing the torch if you ask me. There's one more symbolic passing of the torch that I wanted to talk about, but it's so different from everything else that I'm kind of just going to throw in at the end here. At the end of the end part 1, Todd is acting all spooky-like as he starts closing the curtains, and in the final few seconds of the episode, his character design changes to more closely resemble Edd's original animation style. This is the style that would be adopted by the animation team for the end part 2, and I think it's lovely that Paul decided to foreshadow this transition in the final frames he ever animated for Eddsworld. So that's every passing of the torch I could think of, but are there any that I missed? Do you like these little symbolic moments, and if so, what's your favourite? Let me know in the comments below.